The New York Yankees made it all the way to the World Series this past season, but then had their dreams crushed by the Dodgers. Do the Yanks still have a chance to win it all in 2025? We'll unpack that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, riding solo today. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, most importantly to Matt and I, guys, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience. Through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in giving us a chance on Subtext, you can find the link in the bio wherever you're listening or watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, guys, this is a tough episode to do. I mean, if you're a fan of the show, and even if you're not, I'm gonna let you know I am a New York Yankees fan. So it was a tough season, good season, for the Yanks. They won 94 games, 68 losses. But once again, it's very hard to come in second place. If you're a fantasy baseball player and you finished in second, sometimes when you come in second place in fantasy or any sport at the matter of that, it's almost, I almost say I'd rather come in last sometimes. It's very painful, and then even as a fan, just to watch, it was tough to watch the Yankees get spanked by the Dodgers. But we are here to talk about those Yankees from a fantasy baseball standpoint. Like I said, good year, good roster. Bullpen could have been a little bit better. Pitching in general could have been a little bit better. Hitting was pretty solid. I think a good place to start was with the star of the show, pretty much. One of the stars of the show, but Juan Soto. We don't know if he will stay in New York, free agent. We don't know if he'll stay with the Yankees. He might stay in New York, might go to those Mets, but you know what? I'm not going to speculate too much on that on this episode. Let's just talk about how Soto did in his first year with the Yankees. 157 games, 576 at-bats, a whopping 128 runs, 31 doubles, 4 triples, 41 homers, 109 RBIs. He stole 7 bags. He had 129 walks to 119 strikeouts, and he hit 288. Juan Soto did have, a really bad 2022. Bounced back really well in 23 and even better in 24. Juan Soto still only going to be 26 years old next season. And I mean, if he does come back to the Yankees, I think we just expect more of the same. He set a career high in home runs. He set a career high in runs. Just really did a lot of great things Juan Soto did this past season. Would love to see him come back to the Yankees as a Yankee fan. But even for fantasy baseball purposes, I don't think the Dodgers are going after Soto. I think they're chasing Roki Sasaki, starting pitcher that's coming in from Japan. I'm not sure. I know the Mets are heavy after Soto. I like him if he lands there too. Another solid lineup, another solid park. If they lose Pete Alonso, I don't think they're going to sign Alonso and Soto. But for fantasy baseball purposes, I really don't see too many bad landing spots for Soto. So with that being said, I really not too much to say here. He's a strong 4 categories player, chips in, almost 10 steals every year. So not too much to worry about with Juan Soto when it comes to a fantasy baseball perspective. So I don't really want to waste time on breaking Juan Soto down because there's not really much to do here. He's, one of the top players in the game. You draft him with confidence and you'd be very happy he's on your team. Let's move on to another guy. It's a very similar case here. Let's talk about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge. It's Aaron Judge. Big man, 6'7", 280. He reminds you of an NBA player, to be honest with you. Just the size on him. Another really strong year. Not even a career year. For most guys, this would be a career year, but it wasn't for Aaron Judge because we all know what he did in 2022. But this past season in 24, Aaron Judge stayed fully healthy, 158 games, 559 at-bats, 122 runs, 36 doubles, 58 homers, 144 RBIs. He stole 10 bags. He had 133 walks to 171 strikeouts, and he hit 322. We all knew it was possible, after what he did in 22, Aaron Judge, had a little bit of a down season in 2023 where he got hurt, bounced back very nicely this year. I mean, Aaron Judge is going to be going to be 33 in 2025, this upcoming season. I think we need to be careful, but we still rank him highly. We still draft him with confidence. Aaron Judge, to me, isn't a guy that I'm drafting with, too much injury concern. A lot of his injuries in his career have been fluke injuries, like when he was hit on the wrist or hand, back at the beginning of his career, ran into a wall. It's been a lot of fluke injuries for Judge. So he stays fairly healthy, and even if he doesn't, even if you get 100 plus games out of him, it's 37 home runs, 75 RBIs, and a 267 batting average, which you got last season from Aaron Judge. So not really too much to doubt here. A very strong player. Once again, one of the top players in the game, first round pick. We're taking him with confidence. Not too much to doubt when it comes to Aaron Judge. So once again, just doing the housekeeping on those two guys. Let's get into some more interesting names here for fantasy baseball purposes. Jasson Dominguez. I feel like Matt and I have talked about him at least 2 times this past offseason. Well, not this past offseason, this ongoing offseason, right? And it's just an interesting case. The Yanks didn't play him a lot in the playoffs. He had a bad showing in his 18 games in the regular season. He did hit a couple of homers and stole 5 bags, but he hit 179, struck out 19 times, 11 walks, though. You like that. Just really wasn't what we expected from Jasson Dominguez. So, the minor league, track record speaks for itself. Very, 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 very stellar track record. Even if we go back to just, as recent as this past season in the minors, Jasson Dominguez went across 3 levels, played 58 games, 226 at-bats. He had 43 runs, 8 doubles, 11 homers, 35 RBI, 16 steals, and he had 314. Jasson Dominguez is still only, 21. He's going to be 22 next season. I think there's a lot to like. And, I was reading recently that the Yankees do expect Dominguez to have a big role in the offense this, upcoming season, especially if Soto leaves and they don't go out and make a big splash. Not that Jasson Dominguez could ever be Juan Soto. I mean, he can be eventually. He does have that kind of talent in the bat. With even more, dominating speed. Is it 25 season out of the question for Jasson this upcoming season? I don't think so. I think you're talking about a guy who could easily have 80 runs, 80 RBIs, hit for 265, 270 batting average. I think he's going to be a good pick. I think he's going to be a good pick for fantasy baseball purposes, especially with the Yankees already giving him the vote of confidence. If this kid, Jasson Dominguez, comes out in spring training and does anything, his price is going to fly up draft boards. So I think right now, if you're in an earlier draft or you're in anything that's happening before spring training, for the Jasson Dominguez hype, I think really starts to build. I think you can get him as your number 3 outfielder, utility bat at that. But that's going to fly. That's going to fly up. And I mean, look what happened with Wyatt Langford, this past offseason. The kid had everything going for him, and he didn't really get it going until the end of the season. So you really had to either stand pat and hold on to Langford. What am I doing today, guys? With Wyatt Langford, you either had to hold on to him until the end of the season or, pick him up off a waiver wire if he was still there, or even trade for him at that. And if you traded for Wyatt Langford and, you made some profit off that, that worked out for you. With Jasson Dominguez, though, it's going to be interesting. It's really going to be interesting. I'll probably have a couple of shares of them just to see where the thing goes. At least one, definitely, if I can get him cheap in early drafts. So with Dominguez, man, there's a lot of talent here. So just kind of want to see what it looks like and just hope the hype for Dominguez doesn't get bent out of shape. But guys, coming up, we have names like Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe. We're going to talk some Austin Wells, and then we get into the Yankees starting pitchers. So we have those names and more coming up next. And guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks curation, it makes it easier to save more on all sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time has plenty of great features as well as their all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows the total up front with no surprise fees when it comes to checkout. With their seat views, you're going to get a panoramic view from the actual seat you'll be sitting in before you buy. With their lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with Game Time's ticket coverage, your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And then once again, we are talking about the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where the path to your fantasy baseball victories begins as this offseason continues to unfold. You can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. You're going to get real-time alerts to your phone, including our 2025 rankings, our way too early sleepers, breakouts, and bust, and just so much more. And that's going to be the only place you can really ask us your keeper or dynasty questions this off-season. So stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. All right, guys, let's keep pushing. We got a lot of a lot of interesting Yankee names to talk about, especially when it comes to fantasy baseball purposes. And the next name up is Jazz Chisholm. The Yankees go out and pick up Jazz, hoping he can help make their push, and he certainly did. Really started off like a house on fire, Jazz Chisholm did. Slowed down a lot, even in the postseason, Jazz really didn't do too much for those Yanks. But overall, with the Yankees, when he got over there, he did hit 273 with 11 homers, 18 steals, 23 RBIs, 28 runs. Jazz Chisholm, I honestly do want to say he pretty much did have a career year, this past season. And I always like to say there's more in the tank, but when a guy like Jazz plays 147 games, hits 24 homers, 40 steals, and hits 256, I think that's the upside. I really don't think there's that much more there for Jazz, to be honest with you. Even if you look back at his 2021 season, where he played 124 games and had 464 at-bats, he had 18 homers and 23 steals, and he had 248. Jazz is a career 249 hitter across 449 games with 1,600 at-bats. So it's just really hard for me to see any more upside here. I think I've just bought into Jazz for so long, so many times. I'll draft him for what he is. I think he's a really solid outfielder number 2. Especially if you need some extra steals, he's going to be a batting average liability. I'm not sure. It's going to be tough to see it's going to be interesting to see what the Yankees do if Juan Soto leaves, where Jazz hits in that order. If Jazz gets up top of that lineup and starts wreaking havoc, the run total could be a lot higher than we saw this past season where it was at 74. Could be talking about 90, 100 runs with 25 homers, 75 RBIs, 40 steals, and a 255 batting average. That's solid. Like I said, solid outfielder number 2 production for Jazz. So we'll take it for what it is. I'll draft him in some spots, man. It's just that I'm not baking in any more upside for Jazz. I'm not baking in, maybe he could hit 270, 275. No, I don't think he's ever going to hit 30 plus homers. Even though he has pop, even though Jazz does have pop in the bat, I just don't. I don't see it. I don't think he's going to be a 35 homer guy, 30 plus homer guy anytime soon. The steals is where I think he's going to make his money. I think that's where Jazz is going to make his money. So like I said, draft him for what he is. We're not building an upside into him anymore. I'm just not doing it. We'll move on to this next guy. Anthony Volpe, another Yankees player that started off the season like a house on fire, but unlike Jazz, he didn't really ever find it again, where Jazz did, eventually, get going again. Volpe really fell off, man. 160 games played this year, pretty much all of them. 637 at-bats, 90 runs, 27 doubles, 7 triples, 12 homers, 60 RBIs, 28 steals. He had 42 walks, 256 strikeouts, and he had 243. I mean, we saw improvement in certain areas. The batting average takes a jump forward, almost 40 points. The home runs take a step back, though. He goes from 21 homers to 12, 9 home runs less. I'm not taking that swap. Honestly, I'd rather, I had 209 batting average with Volpe did last year. It was horrible. But, with 11 less home runs for a guy in the minors that, Volpe did show off pop. So I'm not sure what to think of Volpe anymore, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to be buying in 2025 when it comes to Anthony Volpe, because even like I said, 27 homers in 2021 through 109 games, 132 games in 2022 in the minors, 21 homers. So I just want to see if Volpe can, get that home run total back on track. Because if Volpe can be a 25 homer, 30 steal guy with a 240 batting average and good runs, there's definitely a place for him on fantasy baseball teams for sure. Just another tough guy. He's going to be 24 next year. Just a tough guy to predict a lot of upside with here. I know it's there. We've seen it. There's a reason Volpe was one of the top prospects in all of baseball. But when he really only had one really plus season in the minors, you got to start looking at him really and evaluating and say, hey, listen, is it still there? I'm not sure. I'm not going to be – I got to see what the price is on Volpe. I think it's going to be overpriced. I think people are still, banking in a lot of upside. I want to see where we had to take Volpe last year, to be honest. Volpe was coming off the board last season as a 17 shortstop pick, 131. I could buy back in around that price again this year. 17 shortstop off the board. If you waited on middle infield, or if you're in a deeper league and you waited at shortstop, or if you want a utility with some upside, yeah, I could see taking the nab at Volpe, especially on a good Yankees team. It's questionable where, Soto lands, and Volpe could have a bigger role in 2025 for the Yanks, and there still is upside. But like I said, just not going to have a lot of shares. And I want to see what the value is going to be before I really make the decision if I'm buying in on Volpe in 25. I will give you something that I think I'm going to have a lot of shares of. Austin Wells. Let's talk a little bit of catcher. Let's do a little bit of catcher, talk here. Austin Wells was good in spurts. Is a guy that was able to adjust back to major league starting pitching after they, started hitting him, figuring out Austin Wells. He's a big guy at 6'2", 220. Yankees like him. They got him out there for 115 games this past season, 354 at-bats, 42 runs, 18 doubles, a triple, 13 homers, 55 RBIs, 47 walks, 87 strikeouts. He had 229. The thing with Wells is I do think there's more. I know I've been very pessimistic about my own Yankees here from a fantasy baseball perspective. But when it comes to Austin Wells, he was really a batting average guy in college and in the minors. I think Austin Wells could be one of those catchers that could give you a 30 home run season with a 255, 260 batting average, dare I say, with a lot of RBIs in this Yankees lineup. Like I said, they really like to get, Austin Wells out there, in the lineup a lot, DHs every once in a while too. So, and there's going to be room. There's going to be mouths to feed when it comes to this Yankees lineup in 25 when, I do think Juan Soto is going to leave. So I think Austin Wells could be, a guy who jumps into a lot of RBIs, hits more home runs and is very productive from, a catcher standpoint. I don't think we're going to have to pay a lot for Austin Wells. I think he might be outside the top 10 catchers. And, I like to live there. I really hardly ever pay up for catchers in fantasy baseball. So when it comes to Austin Wells, I really think there's a lot of upside. I think this is somebody that, hey, mark it down on your list. Austin Wells, pay attention to him at catcher. But guys, we don't have a crazy amount of time left, but we do have a crazy amount of fun left. We got Gerrit Cole, we got Carlos Rodón, we got Clark Schmidt, and so much more coming up next. And folks, I want to talk to you, my friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And all right, guys, we're back. Home stretch here. But like I said, pitching is always fun to talk about. Let's talk about Gerrit Cole. Officially coming back to the Yankees for at least one more year. He opted out. The Yankees had the option to, it wasn't like neglect it, but, say, hey, listen, you're here for, one more year. They had their team option. They exercised it. That's the exact term for it, actually. So that's what happened. Cole, 17 starts this past year, was coming off an injury, 3.41 ERA, 95 innings pitched, 99 strikeouts, had a 1.12 whip. Cole's getting older, going to be 34 next season, but you know what? I'm buying in. I'm buying into Cole. I think we're going to get value. I truly do think we're going to get value on Cole. Cole is somebody that literally has, what was it? Coming off of his... I think it was his 2022 season. We were talking about him as, top 5 starting pitcher. This past season, we took Cole as actually, right? Well, did he get hurt first? Because, yeah, it looks like we did get a little bit of value on Cole. Yeah, he did get hurt first. So we got, I don't even want to talk about it because he's coming toward his 27th starting pitcher, 92nd pick overall. Obviously, we're not going to get that much value on him this year. But I think if Cole falls, I hate to say an SB2 category because I don't think that's going to happen. Low end 1, if you waited on your first starting pitcher, or high end 2, I definitely think Cole is profitable in that area. Won't take him much higher than that. He's getting a little bit older, as I mentioned, but there's still the upside with Cole. We know what the upside is. The upside is what Chris Sale did this past season, right? Just, comes back, pitches 170 innings with 200 plus strikeouts, a good ERA, and, a good ERA and a good whip too, because Cole's just always been, good at his control and not giving up a lot of hits. So I do like me some Gerrit Cole. Just once again, it's all about seeing where value winds up, guys. It's fun to do this early speculation and sit here and talk with you guys as I deep dive these players and adjust my rankings for 2025. Which if you do want access to, you join us on Subtext. You'll get those early 2025 rankings. Got a lot done so far in there, so it's fun to check out and talk with you guys, see what you guys are thinking about them. But I like Cole. Like I said, we'll have shares. We'll have shares. Let's leave it there. Carlos Rodón. Not so certain with him if I'm going to have as many shares as I will with Cole. Just because he was a bit of a mixed bag this season. There were spurts where he pitched really good, spurts where he pitched really bad. He got through 32 starts, though. 32 starts for Rodón this year, 3.96 ERA, 175 innings, 195 strikeouts, a 1.22 whip. I don't think Rodón ever gets back to the guy he was in 21 and 22, but could Rodón be a mid-3s ERA guy with a lot of strikeouts and a solid whip? Yeah, of course. Once again, value. I really want to see we're going to be drafting him. Let's see where Rodón went this past season. Coming into this past season, we did get some value on Rodón too. He was fairly profitable from where it seems like we had to do. We had to take him that low, did we? Forgive me as I'm scrolling, and I probably went right past Rodón's name. It doesn't even matter. But with Rodón, I like him as like an SP4 In a 12-man league, maybe 5 if we could sneak it out of there. Kind of just want to see where ADP winds up on him. But like I said, he could figure it out. Even I believe his FIP. I was gonna say I thought his FIP was, he actually has been a pretty solid FIP guy in the past, but this year elevated over 4 with a high 3s ERA. I'm not in love. I'm not loving it for Rodón. But if you need a strikeout guy that you want to take a risk on, that could potentially gain you profit, because if Rodón does a 3.4 ERA. 175 innings, 195 strikeouts, I'll take that, and get that whip to a reasonable range. Let's say a 118. I like it. It's definitely not going to kill you. So let's just see what things go with Rodón. We'll leave it at that for now. Clarke Schmidt up next. Love me some Clarke Schmidt. Wish he pitched a little bit better down the stretch. But it's okay. He dealt with injuries, came back, still had some good starts. The overall numbers on the year were fantastic for Schmidt. He was really in the midst of a breakout season. 16 starts for Schmidt this year in the regular season, 2.85 ERA, 85 innings, 93 strikeouts, a 1.18 whip. Now, Schmidt has always had the stuff to be a really, really good pitcher in this league. The Yanks, had moved him around, bullpen starter. Wasn't really sure what the path for him was going to be. In 2023, Schmidt had finished the season pretty strong, and he built off that this past year. Schmidt's another guy I really think I'm going to be all in on 25. I think I'm going to have a lot of shares of Schmidt. I don't think we're going to have to pay too highly for him. I don't think the hype's going to get out of control. I just don't think people are going to do the homework on a guy like Clarke Schmidt. And I think we're going to be able to profit heavily off of him. I think he can be a low 3s ERA guy with over a K per 9 and a good whip on a good Yankees team where he'll win a lot of games. There's just not really too much to add here. Like I said, it's just a pitcher with good stuff that's on a good team. And he got the results we wanted to see in 24. I think we'll see more of that in 25, especially if Schmidt can stay healthy. We're going to be in for a fun year owning Clarke Schmidt. Potentially the last name here, guys. Potentially. Let's see how timing things goes here. Luis Gil of the New York Yankees. This one I'm actually going to give you some splits on, because, man, it was a tale of 2 seasons for Luis Gil. And another guy that has the stuff, man. He has a big fastball. He's got solid breaking stuff. It's just, man, sometimes it winds up a little bit flat and he gets hit hard. And that's the case with a lot of starting pitchers. So let's go first half, second half, which is indicated by the All-Star break. First half, it was 19 starts for Gil. He had a 3.17 ERA with 102 innings pitched, 118 strikeouts, and the whip wasn't great. But in that second half, it was a 4.20 ERA across 10 starts, 49 innings pitched, 53 strikeouts, and the whip was a 1.41. So it really wasn't great in the second half for Gil, where he had that monstrous first half. Really, really faded, especially when it came to that control. And that's what's always ate at Gil, is that he can't hit the zone consistently. And then when he does get in the zone, batters are waiting for it and they line it up. But Gil, big guy, 6'2", 185, still fairly young. He is only going to be 27 next season. So I think we can get Gil late. Here's the thing, right? So on the season, the numbers did look really good for Gil. 3.50 ERA, 29 starts, 151 innings, 171 strikeouts, and the whip was a 1.19. So we might get those, those fantasy football guys who faded out at the end and just think Gil, had a monster season, had really good numbers all year long. We all deep down know that he did wind up getting hit really hard. He gives up a lot of walks. Like I said, puts a lot of guys on base, and that, once the hard contact comes, gives up a lot of home runs, small Yankee Stadium. The ball starts to fly. If the price is right, if he's, Gil's got to be like my SP6 or 7 in the 12-man. He really does. I'm not going much higher than that. I don't believe enough in him to take that risk much higher than that. Even though the upside is there. The upside is, well over a strikeout per 9, mid-3s ERA, okay whip. but just the underlying stuff doesn't back it up, and the eye test doesn't back it up either, because there's just games where Gil gets into it and he cannot find it to save his life. I watch a lot of Yankees baseball as a fan. Just not really huge believer in Gil. He's more of on a start to start type of guy. But guys, with that being said, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Make him your second listen. But guys, until next time, see ya.